1996 Toyota Tacoma with the 2.4. Check engine lights on. But not only that, it has 205,000 miles on it. This truck would start and run okay. Once you get warmed up, it would start harder. But mainly it would go from when you accelerate, it would have full power, and then it almost like it was cutting off, you know, dropping power, like low, like almost like it was kind of choked out, full power, like on and off. Finally got it to throw a code, and after I ran a scan on it, and then next day it threw a code, and excessive EGR flow. Obviously, you know, a lot of people go through and check all the EGR and everything like that, but being as inconsistent as it is, and getting this part as cheap as it is for tearing everything apart and how it acts, I'm going to go ahead and try it. It is an Asin brand. I'm trying to get the part number for you. Vacuum switching valve, VST001. They're about roughly 60 bucks. I got it at AutoZone, which is great to get an Asin part. So what it looks like is you're going to have a little mount and a clip and two vacuum lines in and out. And I'm going to resistance test this too, and I'll put it in the notes in case you want to resistance test yours. If you don't have a new one just to switch, you don't feel like switching the part, I'll try to give you that info. But you'll come to the front of the motor, throttle body, underneath it, right under there is your vacuum switching valve location. So it looks like you could do it with just a Phillips head screwdriver as well. So you'll have to unclip this back there, get that clip off, and when Toyotas get old, they get brittle, and get those two lines off. All right, so you'll need a Phillips head screwdriver, or it looks like a 12 down there if you wanted to pull that mounting bracket off and then do it. But that's where you start. You'll need at least a Phillips head screwdriver. You'll need your VST 001. I prefer Asin parts from the Toyota. I mean, this thing's lasted since '96, so kind of no-brainer to try to put the good parts back on it. So you go from there, right underneath your intake, underneath the throttle body. You'll see it back there. It has green on it. A Phillips screwdriver will drop it off. I would probably recommend trying to push off the vacuum lines first. And be careful with your connectors on old Toyotas, they're brittle. This is what you're gonna need. You'll need your new vacuum switching valve. I used a 12mm ratchet wrench, a Phillips head, flathead to push off the vacuum lines from underneath the intake, and either some silicone sealant or some weather strip adhesive, because this connector on here is gonna be so brittle it will crack and it will not work properly, which, so I went underneath here. See right there, those two vacuum lines. So I went underneath here, these two vacuum lines with the flathead I pushed off, and then I took off my 12mm right here on this mounting, and then I pushed the clip down. It broke the tab because it's old and brittle. That's what Toyotas do. So when you put it together, you're going to put a dab of weather strip adhesive or some gasket maker just right along the edge of the connector here or something, so when it slips on, it holds it on, okay? Not ideal, but try to warn everybody working on these Toyotas, when you get a Toyota that is you know, in your 90s or early 2000s, all the connectors are brittle as can be, so they typically break almost every time. Okay, if you have a voltmeter with resistance, the new one tests at 38.0. The old one tests at 9.2 and fluctuates around 9.13 and 9.2. So that tells me that for resistance, this one's bad. It shouldn't be opening and closing on its own, and it should be remotely close to the resistance of this new one. So just if you decide to pull it off and you want to test resistance, I can't show you with one hand here, but if you decide to do that, you could, you know, test your old one and see where it's at. Let's see if I can get it. Next, you'll take this mounting bracket off with your Phillips, and you'll install the new one So like I said, the old one tests at 9.2 and fluctuates between 9.13 and 9.2. The new one's 38.0. If you want to just do an ohm test before you buy one, you could do that. So we will go ahead, put the bracket on, reinstall it, and see if that's the fix, which it should be. Anytime they're that different, it's always right. So I like to ohm test stuff to see the difference between new and old. Okay, so this is all you do. Just put a dab of that so the broken connector will seat on there and seal it, and keep it connected. And you slip it back under connector first, and then the 2 lines, and then put your 12 on, and we'll fire the truck up and see if the code clears on its own, or clear the code and see how it runs. Back in the truck after the install. Okay, so when I cleared it before, it came right back. Sorry, you can't see that. And I am just using my cheap one because I didn't want to go through the trouble to hook up the expensive one. It takes so long to get everything going. So the truck's already way more responsive. Starts better. So what this would do before is when you go to Excel, it would rev up like normal, but then it would cut in and not cut out, but it would almost drop power, like it was someone was choking it out, and it would go in and out like, and it wasn't just like a miss. It felt like something electronical almost, almost like timing was getting pulled out. But it honestly sounds super free, much better. Nothing's popping back up. So I'd say that's, if you guys have your EGR code excessive flow, you can test your vacuum switching valve, check resistance on it. If you have, a low resistance code, I'd say it's open, and that's your problem there. In this one, when you test resistance, it should level out, and it was fluctuating. So that's it installed down there. It fixed my problem, and I hope this helps you guys out. Also, you could have EGR issues as well, like the EGR valve is stuck open, but it would probably be a little bit more consistent running poorly, like a big vacuum leak, where this one was very inconsistent and intermittent. So hope this helps you guys out. God bless you. Please like and subscribe to my channel, help me out, and hope these videos help you.